The Galactic Council's flagship station, Eternity's Gate, orbited the twin suns of the Silent System, casting reflections of brilliant silver and deep gold across the blackness of space. The station was a marvel of engineering, a testament to the combined genius of the galaxy's finest species. Its spires reached into the void like fingers of shimmering metal, wrapped in energy shields that pulsed with a soft blue glow. Within its central command hall, an atmosphere of anxious anticipation buzzed. The hall was lined with representatives from every corner of the galaxy, Ceruleans with their shimmering, aquatic skin that seemed to ripple with emotion, Crystix beings whose crystalline forms reflected light in shifting colors, the stoic, insectoid Tlari with their jointed limbs and clicking language, and, among them, a small delegation of humans from Earth, who stood out with their simple uniforms and the intensity of their expressions. Commander Illyra Denar of the Ceruleans presided over the gathering. Her eyes, liquid pools of dark blue, surveyed the assembly with the practiced calm of someone who had overseen countless crises. But today, a shadow of concern clouded her usually serene demeanor. A holographic display projected a rotating image of a deep space anomaly that defied all known understanding, a pulsar, but not just any pulsar. This was a rogue entity that moved with purpose, as if driven by an unseen force. For those unfamiliar, she began, her voice smooth and resonant, we face an unprecedented threat. The object, codenamed Vorak's Eye, has veered from its natural course and is heading directly toward the dense trade routes of the Caloris cluster. Its trajectory is erratic, suggesting a level of self-propulsion or external manipulation. A murmur rippled through the hall. The Caloris cluster was not just a major trade route, it was home to billions of beings. If Vorak's Eye reached it, the resulting devastation would be incalculable. A Crystix scientist, Professor ZHYR, whose entire body glistened with anxious yellow hues, spoke up. The pulsar's energy output is unlike anything we've seen. Our attempts to analyze its core suggest it emits gravitational and electromagnetic pulses in complex, almost coded sequences. We suspect these could disrupt not just matter but energy shields and even warp drives. That's correct, Commander Illyra said, nodding. Our standard containment and diversion tactics have failed. We need a new approach. From the human delegation, Captain Elena Cross stepped forward. Her hair was cropped short, her face weathered by years of service on the frontier. She had the bearing of someone who had faced death and come out the other side, scarred but unyielding. Commander, Elena said, her voice clear and strong, my team has been studying Vorak's Eye since the first reports. We believe we might have a way to approach it, but it will require a coordinated effort and an acceptance of significant risk. The hall fell silent. The other delegates, including High Scholar Trell of the Tlari, shifted uncomfortably, their exoskeletons clicking softly in agitation. The humans were known for their bold, often reckless strategies that had a tendency to succeed against impossible odds but left a trail of awe and exasperation in their wake. Illyra's eyes narrowed, a flicker of curiosity breaking through her concern. Proceed, Captain Cross. Elena nodded, exchanging a glance with her chief engineer, Lieutenant Marcus Hale. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with dark eyes that hinted at an unyielding resolve. Marcus activated a holographic map that displayed the pulsar's path and the predicted points of impact. Vorak's Eye emits pulses that are irregular but not entirely random, Marcus explained. We believe these pulses follow a pattern that could be deciphered and countered. If we can create an array of synchronized energy projectors, we could potentially sing to the pulsar, matching its emissions and redirecting it away from the cluster. A murmur swept through the room again. Sing to the pulsar? Scoffed an Andorian physicist, his silver eyes glinting with skepticism. Is this some Earth poeticism? Marcus's lips twitched, but his expression remained serious. Not poetry. Science. If we can match the pulsar's output with a controlled sequence of energy pulses, we could theoretically guide it like steering a ship. The challenge is calculating the exact timing and power output needed to influence an object of that scale. Professor HFY's glistening body dimmed to a thoughtful blue. An intriguing theory, but where would you deploy such an array? The Vorak's eye's path is volatile. Stationing projectors in its vicinity could be catastrophic if the timing is off. Elena's gaze hardened. We know. That's why it will have to be done manually, using ships capable of adaptive modulation and energy projection. We'll need vessels that can reposition quickly and adjust their output on the fly. The room fell silent once more as the enormity of the plan settled over them. This was no ordinary mission. It was a gamble that would pit the finest ships and crews against one of the most formidable forces in the universe. High Scholar Trellis' multifaceted eyes glistened with reluctant admiration. And who will lead this orchestra of ships? Elena stepped forward. I will. And I will need volunteers from the Union's best. This is not a mission for the faint of heart. A ripple of unease passed through the assembly. The pulsar's energy pulses were enough to crush most ships. The odds of survival were slim at best. But then, slowly, one by one, voices of support rose. Captain Dre of the Cerellians offered 2 of her best vessels, equipped with energy modulators. The Christics provided their most advanced data analysts to assist in deciphering the pulsar's emissions in real time. Even the Tlari, whose people valued logic and careful planning, committed their precision fleet to aid in the effort. The mission, codenamed Harmonic Veil, was set in motion. Days turned into sleepless weeks as the Allied crews worked to retrofit their ships for the task. Energy projectors were calibrated, shields were reinforced with adaptive plating, and new AI algorithms were installed to help synchronize the pulse sequences. The ships chosen for the mission, 10 in total, formed an eclectic mix of Union technology and human ingenuity.
Elena stood aboard the Starforge, her flagship, watching the preparation unfold. The bridge was alive with the hum of activity, holographic displays lighting up with data streams and simulations. Marcus Hale approached, his brow furrowed with concern. Captain, we've run the numbers a dozen times. Even with the synchronization algorithms, there's only a 40% chance we can sustain the modulation long enough to redirect the pulsar. Elena's expression remained steady. I know, Marcus, but a 40% chance is better than none. We have to trust the teams and each other. Marcus nodded, a hint of a smile breaking through the tension. Trust, right? The fleet launched from Eternity's Gate, moving in tight formation as they approached Vorak's eye. The pulsar loomed ahead, a churning sphere of energy surrounded by undulating waves of gravitational force that made space itself ripple like water. Its surface flared with bursts of white and blue, each pulse radiating a power that could disintegrate a lesser ship in an instant. Approaching designated array points, said Lieutenant Carr, the ship's helmsman. The tension in his voice mirrored that of everyone on the bridge. Steady, everyone, Elena said. This is where we make history. The ships deployed into their positions, forming a wide net around the pulsar. On each vessel, crews worked furiously, adjusting projectors and monitoring pulse patterns. The data teams back on Eternity's Gate fed updated sequences to the fleet, fine-tuning their approach in real time. Initial synchronization complete, Marcus called out. Commencing modulation sequence on my mark. Elena's heart thudded in her chest as she watched the displays. The first pulse erupted from the Starforge, a beam of energy that resonated through the void, meeting Vorak's eye's latest burst head-on. The other ships followed, their projectors releasing carefully timed pulses that created a harmonious vibration. The effect was instantaneous. The pulsar seemed to shudder, its energy rippling out in response to the synchronized output of the fleet. The gravitational waves began to shift, no longer chaotic but bending, almost as if guided. We have feedback on the outer rim, Lieutenant Carr reported, his voice barely concealing his excitement. It's working. For a moment, hope surged through the fleet. The synchronized pulses held, and Vorak's eye adjusted its trajectory by a fraction that could mean the difference between catastrophe and salvation. But then, as quickly as hope had sparked, alarms blared across the ships. The pulsar flared with a sudden, violent burst, its energy swelling in an erratic pulse that threw the fleet into disarray. Compensate! Elena shouted, gripping the edge of the command console. The ship shuddered, lights flickering as the energy shield strained under the onslaught. The AI algorithms worked furiously, recalibrating the modulation, but the sudden deviation had thrown off the entire sequence. Ships veered to avoid the unpredictable waves, their projectors faltering. On the bridge of the Starforge, Marcus's fingers flew over the controls. "We need to recalibrate now, or the entire array will collapse." Elena's mind raced. There was no time for deliberation, only instinct. "All ships, switch to adaptive modulation. Follow the new sequence on my mark." The data from Eternity's Gate streamed in, a jumble of numbers and trajectories. The crews, battle-hardened and trained for the impossible, shifted their focus and trusted in their leaders. "Mark!" The fleet's projectors fired again, this time with rapid adjustments that matched the pulsar's unpredictable surges. The ships glowed with energy, their projectors creating a symphony of light that danced across the dark expanse of space. The pulsar's erratic pulses began to smooth once more, its path shifting incrementally. Minutes turned into an eternity as the fleet maintained the modulation, the strain evident in the faces of every crew member. Then, as if finally yielding, Vorak's eyes' energy stabilized. The pulsar's trajectory bent away from the Caloris cluster, its course redirected to a region of uninhabited space. Silence enveloped the bridge, followed by the collective exhale of relief. Cheers erupted as the realization sank in they had done it. Elena's legs felt weak, but she stood tall, meeting Marcus's gaze. His smile was tired but triumphant. "Trust, huh?" "Trust," she echoed, a smile breaking through the fatigue. Back on Eternity's Gate, the news spread like wildfire. The Union had faced down one of the most powerful phenomena in the known universe and won. For the first time in generations, the galaxy had seen what was possible when its most disparate forces came together. The assembly hall was filled once more, but this time with cheers, congratulations, and the shared knowledge that against all odds, they had persevered. Commander Illyra, whose eyes now glowed with a rare warmth, looked over at Captain Elena Cross and her crew. "You have not just steered a pulsar," Illyra said, her voice carrying across the hall. "You have steered the course of history. Let this day be remembered not just for what we faced, but for what we achieved together." The stars outside Eternity's Gate glistened as they always had, but now they seemed brighter, as if reflecting the hope and determination that had saved billions. And for the crew of the Starforge, they knew that no matter how dark the void became, they would always find a way to illuminate the path forward.